Hey, aloha natural farmers. Drake here, and I want to make this video right now because it's been about 9 years since I've been running the Korean natural farming group in Hilo, and it's time for me to think about where I want to head in the future, what I want to do, and the amount of time and energy that I put into those meetings has been just so rewarding for me and for everyone. I feel like it's kind of anchored the natural farming group into reality, from this space, from these teachings that came to us, to actually fulfilling and manifesting, to be able to allow people to integrate natural farming into their lives, not only here in Hilo but actually all around the globe. And I just want to thank you for continuing to support me and my efforts, and you and your growth, and how community has come together through this effort, and how we've bloomed. And it's kind of a thing for me where I feel like it's like a young kid, where they've grown up and they've made it so that they can walk, they can run, they can wipe their own bottom, and they're good to go. And so it's time for me to, after 9 years of doing this, since 2009 when Gil Karangdan came and we had some extra money from selling tickets from his course, that we decided, Hoon Park and Ginger John decided to, and with Mary, decided to create that group. And then eventually I got turned over to me because of my, stepped up with the leadership to make it happen. And it's been a great time. It's been a real, I've grown, and but I believe it's time to move on. I use the meeting as times to clarify natural farming, bring forward different concepts, from water to fermented plant juice, and switching those over, the vocabulary now, to KNF food and structure and all these things that are making intuitive sense. And for me to really take this time to clarify in my own practice, get my own things really pumping and growing, and to kind of encourage more people to take my energy and encourage more folks to grow KNF meetings in their local region, to do what I did, to anchor this everywhere around the world. And I'm not saying I did it alone. Many people supported this whole journey throughout the process, and have been huge contributors to making this happen. I couldn't have done this alone, in fact. But it does take a dedicated core leader in the center to make it happen. And it does take showing up monthly, rain or shine, working car or not. For many years I rode my bike to the meeting and just gave it my all. But I think it's matured enough, and I've anchored natural farming enough in the Big Island, that moving on to, and what am I moving on to? My focus right now, and where I think I'm headed, is towards KNF Leadership Academy. I really want to take these seeds that have been planted, this soil foundation that's been created, and to focus on those folks, the ones that are shooting up the fastest and the ones that are rooting down the hardest, and take those people, those folks, and work to get some KNF Leadership Academy. And what this month's meeting was going to be about was actually my trip that we just did to Korea. I just organized a trip with Ray Yoon and Master Lee and Sun Suk Lee, who have been super supportive through this past year of growing natural farming, coming from the heart, really the core of this whole natural farming movement, and putting their reputations and lives on the line to stand for what's pono. And even through some of hardship that has come this year, of loyalty, and where is your loyalty laying, I believe these folks have shown that the loyalty is in the practice, You know, they say the proof is in the pudding, or the proof is in the putiyai here locally. You know, it's what are you producing, and that's what this Korean trip was so leveling up, bringing to the forefront, was Master Lee and Rayun have been practicing what they're talking about. I learned a few really great concepts that I kind of want to take a few minutes and talk about here. The one that's the most profound to me was this concept of 50-20, or 50-30-20. And that meaning that the 50% of this are neutral microorganisms in the soil. The 30% are good microorganisms. And the 20% are bad microorganisms. And when I say good and bad, they're all in air quotes because it all depends on your perspective. But from the human perspective, from the heart perspective, from the health perspective, that's what we're talking about, is this balance. And basically what it is it's this yin and yang balance between this 30 and 20%. When the good is 30%, the 50% neutral microbes become good. So you get this 80% majority good when just 30% becomes good. However, when the 30% is bad and the good is only 20%, you get this 80% bad. And so the system is ultimately quote-unquote bad, or pathogenic, or non-conducive to growth or bringing things up. And so what happens in natural farming is the microbes, this vast majority, this 50%, the majority by definition, is neutral. And so it's really this challenge between this good and this bad, quote unquote. Whether you're going to have pathogens in charge and then the entire system becomes pathogenic, or you're going to have beneficial aerobes coming from the heart creating beneficial infrared light, which is the friction of love, to decide where the majority of your soil is going. So that's something that hit me like a ton of bricks, because where I come from, I've always been trying to vanquish evil, right? And come and make this system so good, and to say, well, hey, how can we eliminate this bad, and how can we make this go completely good? Because I want to see growth, right? I want to see it return. I want to see the ecology. I want to see beneficial runoff, and I want to see all these things. But it hit me like a ton of bricks, because a natural system, I asked Master Lee, I was like, well, what if you got, say 40% good? And he said, Anyo, I think. Anyo? I believe that means no in Korean, right? Anyo? It means no. Aole. No, you cannot do that, because that is unnatural. You cannot have this good become larger than that. And when I talk about these ratios, they're not exactly perfect, right? Yeah, you can have a little bit different, and it probably is actually closer to a golden ratio of things, just because that's the natural number system that seems to rule life and where we live. But just as a general rule, general idea of this, you cannot have the good get more and be more beneficial. You're always going to have this 50 to 60% that is these neutral microbes. You're always going to have this 15 to 20%, 20 to 30% that's good versus bad, and they're almost equal to each other, right? If it was 25-25, you'd still have that same 50% being developed. And so you're always within this. Just the good is just a little bit better than the bad, and the whole system, 80%, becomes good. And if the bad is just a little worse than the good, the whole 80% becomes bad. And this just hit me like a ton of bricks. Again, I'll say that because it's just like, I was just floored. I was like, oh, what? Because that's the truth. And I've always been trying to be like, oh, we'll eliminate bad once and for all, right? We'll get rid of it. We'll move forward in integrity and with these teachings. But what's come to me is that you cannot do that. And I have to, in my own life, reorder, restructure myself so that I can create organizations and run things where it tolerates this bad, right? And that's kind of what happened to me this year. I kind of had this thing where all of a sudden I noticed this other majority taking over, and then I saw this whole thing I had worked for switch to become, from my perspective, pathogenic, right? And I was like, oh, it hurt so bad, and I was like, oh, everything I had worked for. And I tried to go and win the majority back and talk to the majority or do this to get it back on track to move the right way. But I realized the actual path I took, the path of silence and the path of doing what was right, of contacting those that are on the front edge, the front runners for this movement, and contacting them and saying, hey, look, let's go to Korea. Let's learn more. Let's further our knowledge. Let's continue this. And I was able to build a worldwide collective. This last Korean trip, we had guys from Israel, Canada, Australia, Florida, California, Hawaii, Malaysia, all over the world came, and were like, just like IMOs, we collected the IMOs from the best place. We brought them all together and we fed each other on nutrients. The best Korean food, like alone, every time I go to Korea, I say, just come just for the food. It's worth it. Even if you're not a natural farmer, come to eat. It's worth it. We fed the best food, but we also fed the best food into our minds. We studied with Master Lee, who's been practicing this for like over 15 years, and he's done it in the Philippines, he's done it in Tanzania, and he's done it in Korea. So he knows the struggles of Hawaii. He knows what it's like, where it's like you look around and there's no infrastructure and you're like, how the heck am I going to make IMO? He has solutions for that kind of stuff, and that's the material that we covered. And in all these people from all over the world who are these front runners, who are these leaders, who are taking that balance, that 20-30% balance, and making sure that that 30% is in charge. These people had the most pure hearts. They were this 30%. They were this good. And it's them that goes back and is going to have to contend with that 20% in all their own zones. But with this understanding, they can grow that small 30% and they can get the 80% to build their organization where they are. And that's what it takes to get natural farming anchored, because we are going up. And we don't have to fight that 20%, the naysayers, the people who are like, oh, I don't know if natural farming works. I don't know if I'm ready to open my heart to this whole life-changing paradigm. I don't know if I'm ready to inoculate my body and create an immune system that will outcompete any foreign pathogenic germ that lands on me. I don't know if I'm ready for this. But these people are. And that's where, for me, when I came back, I'm like, man, this is where I need to spend my energy. I need to make a KNF Leadership Academy. I need to mimic the microbes exactly as they are. I need to realize, okay, grab the people that are ready from where they are, bring them here, inoculate them, train them, and then send them back to their indigenous environment. And that's just what we're doing in an IMO pile. We're getting our seed IMO, we're then propagating our IMO, we're then activating it with the local soil, and then we're putting it back out. And this is the whole secret, this is the whole key. And most of this key lies in the vocabulary. And that's why I highly respect Ray. Because Ray Yun, is the guy who took Han Kyu Cho's system of all these solutions, and he codified it. He brought in the vocabulary. He was the one who gave us all the acronyms we operate with. Before Ray Yun, it was Green Juice from Heaven. After Ray Yun, it was FPJ. After Ray Yun, it was WCA, it was WCP. He codified it and he wrote the book. He wrote one of the best books, because he doesn't just intellectually know natural farming, he lives it. He puts his whole heart and soul into it. His gift, his Tai Chi, his balanced energy is what makes this happen, and he's doing it again for us. He's going and he's codifying this mystical stuff that's like, ooh, we got this in these number systems where I say to you IMO 3 and it's like, what the heck does that mean? Versus I say to you, hey, this is propagated IMO. This is where we took a seed IMO that had hundreds and we made it into this propagated IMO which has trillions. And then we're going to make it into activated IMO, which is tuning it into your soil system here. And this is the secrets. These are the things. These are the ways of thinking that a lot of this is in the vocabulary. Because we like to think, oh yeah, you know, we have all this jargon as natural farmers, right? And think of all the newbie questions, all the people that come into the KNF Facebook group that are like, well, what's this? Oh, I need this table, I need this chart, I need to know these things, or what's going on. And it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Really, natural farming is one of the most intuitive things. You want to understand nutrient cycle? Watch a baby grow. The kid goes, it requires different nutrients, and then it goes and it gets fatter and skinnier as it grows up. We all see this happen, and when we start to understand how our solutions plug into this, it's so simple. And that's the thing. That's the teachings. That's what we're bringing to the forefront, and that's where I'm trying to spend my energy, right? I got all this time in the world to do whatever I want. I got the same amount of time as you, and I'm trying to take my energy and codify this system in a way so that we can make it so this can spread. The other thing I had was when I was on the airplane and I was taking off and I was going to Korea, I thought to myself, man, how can we get this beyond the farming? Because if we call this Korean natural farming, so many people are like, yeah, but I don't farm. Especially in America, because it's less than 2% of the people out there are farmers, right? So how do we get this? Because all these people, the people that love the whales, that love their forests, that love healthy guts, that have people in their family dying of cancer, all of us need access to this information. We all need to embody this. And if I call it Korean natural farming, it's like, oh man, that doesn't even apply to me. But the truth is, these solutions can go and restore an ecosystem anywhere, and they can bring health to our system. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, I gotta make a video where you show this thing, where you show the whole planet dying. But then this guy goes to this place under the tree, grabs the seed IMO, cultivates it, and you can show the microbes with animation where you show them growing to mass populations. Then shows them taking that, making a liquid IMO, and then flying a drone out over the land. And you can show all these microbe warriors going in, and it's like as they're in the pile getting propagated IMO, it's like they're at the gym working out. And you take these kind of weak IMOs and you tell them Leadership Academy, where they're left facing, and they're all learning how to be so, you know, like soldiers is what I think, because I think of the discipline. But it's really not about war, it's about healing, it's about the heart. But we gotta have that discipline, we gotta have these mindsets, we gotta have these concepts. And you show the IMO going from just lazy bones Jones, just thinking Burning Man's gonna save us and we need to dance the future away, to becoming really disciplined guys that can, like, you know, be who we are. And when we have that discipline and we go into the earth and we learn how to build houses and we learn how to be useful, not just sit around story fires, but to use fires to create biochar while we're telling stories to our grandchildren. And then we're actually incorporating that into the soil. This is what you show, and you teach those people in this small area, just like our IMO piles. Then you take those and you put them out into liquid form and you move them onto the land, and you show the land. They come into this crack addict neighborhood and they're like, just like Ron Finley, the gangster gardener. And they're like, bro, did you know you can plant your, what you call that thing on the side of the road that's between the car and the sidewalk, that little piece of thing that they usually poison or mow, and you can grow more food there to start feeding your family. And it's people like this showing this concept though of the IMOs doing that, because that's what they're doing for the soil. We do it in this macro picture, but on the micro level of getting the microbes into the neighborhoods, so all of a sudden food is starting to sprout. And you show just taking this and where all this land out here that's inaccessible, you just start flying these drones over, and you're showing how as the microbes land on the ground, they're like resuscitating guys, doing CPR, waking them up, being like, hey, get up. Hey, with us, like, we can't get across that bridge. I know how to build a bridge. and we start pumping water, and we start bringing this stuff, the air, into the soil, and all of a sudden the tree roots start to connect into this structure the microbes have had, and the whole dead forest comes back to life. And it all starts from the subsoil, right? Good soil equals good plants, equals good animals, equals good people. And it's all this whole equation. And so often we think, oh, okay, we got to start by putting good plants. Take a step back. We got to make good soil first. And you can go put good plants, and in 3 years you will get good soil. But if you go put good plants and good soil at the same time, and you're building soil foundation, now you are going exponential. You are getting a curve that looks like this, like woof, plants coming back, the watershed restored, clean water rolling off the earth, carbon being sequestered out of our sky down into the soil. And this is the vision that I had on the airplane of showing this, because it needs to be animated. Our children need to know, and our adults need to know in a way. And even our kupuna, this stuff that they may or may not have known that they used to practice. And even in my lifetime, my kupuna, like my grandparents that are alive, they actually didn't even know. So we're divorced like 3 generations, 4 generations from people who actually knew how to care for the soil. And that brings me back to the second huge thing that I learned in Korea, which was integrated animal farming. And in my life, it's been coming to me, and it's been coming to me, and I've been keeping pigs here on this land for the past 8 years, and I didn't know why. Han Kyu Chol told me, hey, keep pigs, and I was like, yeah. And the reason I was keeping pigs initially was because I wanted to prove to people when they come, they say, oh, I can keep pigs with no smell, and they're like, nobody believes you. But they come to my pig pen, and they stand there, and they're like, oh boy, no smell. How you did that? And that's the reason I'm keeping the pigs, was just to show people, to blow their mind, to show them that this whole paradigm of no smell, no cleaning, no flies, just this living deep litter system with the logs, the wood chips, the inoculated, activated IMO on top. And this system digests the poop as it hits the ground. It's digested. And what I learned, and what I've been converging to, is, you may have noticed I changed the Facebook group thing to being that thing where Natasha took that nice picture of me where I'm holding out the IMO, the manure IMO, the mature IMO. I also call it bio. But I'm holding that out. And it was coming to me. It was this convergence. It's this thing that they talk about, divine synchronicity, or, you know, the sage giving you the blessings when you're on the path. And I had been converging to this on my own through this, where I had been learning about this, and it is the key to natural farming. I'm not saying that everyone has to go get pigs. You can start with chickens. You can even just think in your brain like, okay, one day I'll get there. Because for us to transition from where we're at, and we got all kinds of regulations about chickens and pigs and all this stuff, and those are hurdles that I know we got to get through. But what I just want to share my practice with you, that as I've been taking this bio, this manure IMO, which is off the hook, I now look at my pigs as opposed to something that costs me something. You know, I feed them every day. It's a lot of work to keep pigs. As something that costs me money just to show people, to blow their mind, to be living example, to be this teacher that shows people this stuff. I now look at it as the heart of my farm. I am figuring out how can I get the better fermented IMO animal feed into my animals, which I do, but I need a little bit more machinery, and this is kind of the hidden cost of natural farming, is that it's not cheap to get the machinery. I need a shredder that runs off the PTO of my tractor that can shred bananas, that I just throw it through and it just shreds it, but it's also safe, not like some of the things I posted in the group where it's like, oh bro, if you fell in that, you'd be dead. Something is safe that I can shred this stuff so I can start fermenting better, because it's all about getting small things and then mixing in the activated IMO and the other nutrients and balancing their food. But if I can up my game even further that way, it's just I'm gonna get a better product. But if I can't, the manure IMO that falls on the ground after it's digested with the animal's guts, they're eating good stuff, and then it falls on the ground, and then on the ground it ferments with all that activated IMO and that whole simulated forest floor. And if you see my videos lately on Instagram, oh bruh, I'm pulling that stuff up and it is the most dank, dark, black gold. This stuff is the core of my farm now. Everywhere I go and put it. This plant standing right next to me was kind of weak sauce. I had done soil foundation. I had been spraying it with the Korean natural farming solutions. But you know what? It didn't turn around and it's already throwing little fruits until I applied the manure IMO. The manure IMO has all these nutrients. They're all unlocked. They're all pre-fermented. This stuff is off the hook. And so what I see and what was presented to us was called integrated animal farming. And the reason for keeping animals in Korean natural farming, even if you're vegan, it's not to eat them. Sell the keikis. Don't ask questions of what people do with them. Set them free in the wild if you like after you get the pigs. I mean, I don't think that's the best idea, but what I'm saying is don't let anything stop you from embracing this paradigm. Because what happens is I get all this crop stuff, like these leaves and these things, and if I go chop down this papaya tree and I go compost it, that's one thing. I'm using very tiny microorganisms to break that down. And it takes months to do composting. Versus I take this same top, I ferment it a little bit, just in silent, just to get it just inoculated. And I'm not wanting it to break down in my fermentation. But then I feed this to the animal. And guess what? It's manure in about 5 minutes or, a day in the guts. And then it comes out as manure. And what we can do is we take the human food, the papayas, we eat those. But the stalks from corn, from cassava, from banana stalk, from all this stuff, the stuff that we can't eat as humans, and we put it into animals, animal food. And what that enables us to do is to take this stuff that was this slow process of composting and recycling and speed it up with animals. And when you do this, you get these cycles that start to spin, that start to rotate. And they spin at a speed that can enable us to take terrible land and bring it into most fertile conditions in record time. Because we're starting to utilize the microbes, and the microbes are this exponential factor. They're always growing. They are growing at such a speed that they double every half hour. So imagine that. Like I was calculated the other day, and like it's about our human equivalent. It's like 200. I don't know. It's immense. It's like 200 years a day or something, in terms of what their speed is versus our speed. And we're taking the microbes exponential thing, and then we're running it through our animals, this stuff that we couldn't eat, and we are making the most kind compost so fast. But with the Korean natural farming system, it's different than most CAFOs. Your animals are still in confinement, but they're not in this stink stuff. If you go to a manure lagoon and all that, and they're washing it down and they're breeding pathogenic anaerobes, that stuff stinks and it's really gross. Korean natural farming enables you to have chickens and pigs right next to your house. Like literally, that's my house right there. The pigs could be right where I'm standing, and I would actually have a healthier immune system. The whole floor the pigs are in would actually mitigate disease. I'd be able to break things down right here. I'd be able to keep an eye on my pigs, and my food scraps, I just throw them out the window, and now or ferment them first is even better. But the pigs are recycling that stuff at a record speed, and that's what's going to enable us to change American agriculture and world agriculture, because everyone copies America, and it's this system that works. And not to think this is a new idea, this is what they've been practicing in Korea for years. Rae-yoon talking about his thing where he says poopology, and it's this concept of pooping in the right place, putting our human waste in the right places. And I don't want to go take too many far steps and kind of get you where you're like, oh, he's talking about fermenting our poop and putting it back in the field, and think that's bad, because it's all about fermentation. It's all about pathogen management. It's all about parasite management. And what manages those parasites is good IMO. And when you think about this, to go back to my earlier concept where you got the 50% neutral, the 30% good, and the 20% bad, is You're never going to eliminate all of those pathogens. What you're going to do is you're going to bring it into balance where the 80% of the microorganisms are good because you focused on that 30%. So you're taking manure and this stuff that when it comes out, if it's stinky, it got pathogens, and then you're inoculating. You're immediately putting activated IMO into it, and those are just outnumbering the pathogenic IMOs so fast that the 80% of that is turning into human compatible, mammal compatible, animal friendly, ecosystem friendly, beautiful microorganisms. So it's about this outnumbering the bad real fast, and that's what natural farming is about. That's what the living floor is about. That's what these activated systems are about, is how do we take this thing that before was waste and make it into beneficial things. And this is the key, this is the secret, this is this integrated animal farming, because banana stalk, usually a waste. Yeah, you could compost it, but if you turn it into silage and you feed it to an animal, now you got bacon as your output, plus the manure that's going to grow even better bananas, and you're putting the best IMOs on your land because you're now using manure IMO. And mature IMO, I don't know if manure is going to fly for us, to be honest, because it raises red flags, right? I say manure, but although we use manure all over in farming, right? Guys throw guano on their plants, they throw chicken shit, they throw all kinds of stuff. But for us, you know, you got to be real careful, because the whole secret to natural farming and the spread of this stuff is in the vocabulary. We got to be real smart at this point, because it's just like a little kid and it's grown up. And this little kid that we've grown up knows a few swear words. And the thing has one filthy mouth, and we look at it and we're like, oh, I don't know. But right now is the time for it to go into its PhD program, into its master's. And what that is that's wisdom and practice right on your farm, where you may have got an education from somebody, but now is the time for you to learn from yourself, to apply these things, to come back to the Korean Natural Farming group and say, hey, I experienced this and this, and share your experience and your wisdom with each other so that we can start to help further this as we're getting master's degrees and PhDs, because the land is the professor and the plants are the faculty, and they're going to teach you about this stuff. And this is for me, this is how I'm learning, this is what I'm doing, and I want to encourage all of you to do the same thing. So, to wrap things up here, I want to encourage you, wherever you are, start a Korean Natural Farming group. Anchor it where you're at. Start inviting people around monthly. Show up, make it happen. I will support you as best as I can. I'll share my wisdom. For me, I think I'm gonna keep producing these videos, because I think that's my global reach right now. I've moved from where I'm at to where I'm gonna go, and I think using this online mycelia, this wireless network that is just how the soil works, is what's gonna help me grow the fastest and the biggest, because I'm in great demand these days. All kinds of people contacting me wanting help, and I gotta move from where I'm helping individuals at the end user to start supporting my leaders, start supporting the activists, start supporting the people that are running the path and that are going that way, start supporting that 30%, let go so I'm no longer fighting any of that 20% bad guys, and so we can get the 80%, those 30 can then work with that 50%, and then we can build this 80% good natural farming community. So, to wrap things up a little more, I'm going to be doing a tour across America this summer. We just got the dates. It's starting in mid-May, going till July. So I'm going to be on the road, and my goal is to get KNF leadership. It's to expose folks, to share my experience, share my wisdom with everybody that's out there. But it's really to anchor these groups around the country so that we can build these hubs, so that we can start sharing beyond just me and beyond people thinking, oh yeah, we got to call these experts and who are these leaders, and really get it so it's diversified, because that's another key of IMO, is diversification. If it all comes from one source, like we're producing all the EM here, it's not going to work on your land. It has to come from an indigenous thing, and I'm just an inoculator. I'm just coming to say, hey, I want to empower you. Hey, come, I want to show you what works. I want to put you in this IMO pile. I want to heal your body, and then I want you to go out and heal everyone else. So going around the country this summer. The other thing is that I'm doing KNF Leadership Academy right here on this farm. We got my animal system. It's actually it's over there a bit, and we're planting this whole half acre beneath with using the integrated animal feed, the integrated animal systems. We are bringing this whole thing around, and it's kind of a leadership process and pulling myself up by my bootstraps. If you guys want to send me some funding and you want to reach out and help me reach these goals, and you appreciate what I've brought to the whole community over the past 9 years and what I continue to bring to the group, I would really appreciate that, because I give my all the time. And sometimes I feel like, man, it's not giving back. But in what I mean by that is monetarily, right? And we're all strapped because of the Federal Reserve System and how these things work, and how the whole system is kind of against us, the people. And it's really supports like the meritocracy, super rich, like billionaire, trillionaire guys. I'm not talking about rich like, oh, I got $1 million. I'm talking like rich like you got hundreds of millions of dollars. And it pinches the guys like us who are just trying to scrape by and make a living. And so I know it's you know, I'm not asking for everyone, you know, but hey, my friend Gil Karangdang, the guy who brought natural farming to Hawaii and anchored it in me, enabled us, this group, to grow and this whole thing to happen. His son just got shot in the back and is paralyzed from the waist down. And I just gave, you know, $100 to him, which was hard for me because I just spent almost all my money to go to Korea. And so, but I'm still trying to bring this stuff out, and so I'm not asking for huge financial contribution, but anything you can help. If your heart resonates with this, reach out and not just say, hey Drake, how can I help? But say, hey, I got this going. How can we work together? And say, because if it comes to me and it just says, how can I help you? It's like, man, that's another thing I got to take off my plate of where I'm moving to tell you how you can help. Versus saying, hey, I got this group and these things, and like, how can we work together? And like helping in a way, I don't know exactly how to describe it, and it's something I'm trying to grow into and reach out to you guys, because, you know, I need help, right? We cannot do this alone, but I gotta find the right way to help. And so for me, training leaders, people that come that are wanting to already be a leader and saying, oh, how can I help? Oh, I'm a leader. Well, can I come to your spot and can I intern and can I learn? Like David, I invited him. He just showed up one day. He spent a couple months here, and now he's going and teaching classes in Pahoa. He is turning Puna onto this, and his heart is in the exact right space. And this is who I want to work with. He is part of this 30%. He is going out, he is inoculating and making it so it's 80% good out there. So I got an opportunity coming up in December and January, and then I'm also working a lot with Rayun globally, and I kind of got to be a little bit careful about that because of some of the folks that are in this 20% that are kind of thwarting these efforts. And so I got to be careful. I really want to, with this video and these things, talk to the 30%, talk to the 80%, because that 20%, I got to be a little careful. And this is the first time in my life where I've ever run into the enemy. And it's funny, the guy who told me about the enemy is pretty much that one. So, you know, if you know, you know. And I'm speaking to you, and if you like forgiveness, reach out, boy. But, oh, that hurts. What happened to me this year, I'm not going to lie, really hurt my heart. But I grew. And I want to speak a little bit, this last thing, I try and end this thing at about 40 minutes, is that this last year previous, 2017, 2018, was year of the phoenix, was year of the fire. So everything you had worked to build was probably burnt to the ground. And you, as long as you didn't get burnt with it, it's your time to rise up again. And this year is the year of the dog, and it's all about loyalty and choosing the right path and the right factions and the right things to be part of. Are you in that 30%? Are you in that 50%? Are you in that 20%? And this is the year that determines where you're at. And looking forward to next year, because next year, starting February time, is year of the boar. And the boar is all about having a good time, partying, not letting things, hurt it so much. It got thick skin. It's pretty naive. So looking forward to all these things as I move forward. But I just want to extend this to you. Thanks for watching. May the beneficial microbes be with you. Aloha.